And I used to watch a lot of it, to be honest.
And to be honest, I'm still recovering from an intense addiction that lasted about 6 years.
I started watching porn when I was like 11.
Sexual excitement and pleasure feel great, and we shouldn't shame people for that.
And that seems to be demotivating people to actually seek out meaningful sexual relationships.
Sex is everything is going
down. If you're pro-sex, you're pro-pornography.
That's by your definition.
My name is Milo Timberlake. I started using porn when I was 13 years old, and I haven't used it in 6 months. Today I'm going to be answering the question, should I use porn? Here's a paradox for you. Everybody is horny, constantly. They're gonna talk about like the freaking new memes or whatever.
I think Kim Yo-jong is so hot. I want her to step on me and call me a filthy Western pig.
Freaking Samsung Sam.
Hello, Sam!
People are more comfortable with all their different freaking kinks.
Suck the toe.
And there's the birth control pill, which is very new. And yet, no sex. For you especially. Scientifically, people are having much less sex on average. You know, across men, women, globally. Everybody's having less sex. Why?
So what does pornography do?
Why would you need a real woman when you can fulfill all your wildest sexual fantasies within minutes?
At the click of a button at any moment, anything that you can imagine is available on the internet immediately.
If your brain learns to be aroused by watching other people have sex,
you get to the point where you actually can't be aroused either physically or psychologically in real life.
It is not necessarily going to carry over to the ability to get aroused when you're one-on-one with somebody else.
Which in the long term are vastly better for us in every possible way.
But I've definitely experienced emotional intimacy with somebody who was addicted to pornography.
Anxiety and depression is going up.
And absolutely experienced hurt within that.
Suicide is going up.
After he used OnlyFans, you know, his kids left him, his dog ran away, his whole life just started losing it.
Start getting the wrong brand of cereal and everything.
Okay, so certainly there is some bad aspects to porn. Perhaps the rise in availability has correlated with the lowering of people having sex. But sex isn't always good, right?
Which is a lot of people. They get roped up in these relationships with these guys and gals that they're not really in love with, but they like to fuck.
And the demonizing of it can often feel weird.
Because I think that's why sex work is so inflammatory. You know, it dredges up a lot of people's deep-seated issues and they get very angry and heated.
Or like fear-mongering.
Media coverage of pornography tends to have headlines all about the negative side of pornography.
It was preached to you that porn is bad, it leads to bad things.
And how it's ruining everybody's lives and relationships.
And the satiation of the sexual urge through porn has been around as long as we have. So it would make sense that there's some benefits that maybe even outweigh the downsides.
The escapism that many people claim is harmful can actually be quite helpful.
Is the pornography in lieu of you or in addition to you?
But it can also work as an icebreaker in order to be able to talk and communicate about things like your sexual desires and your boundaries.
And people who watch with a partner actually find that they're more dedicated to their partner and more sexually satisfied.
Men want variety.
You deserve to see some boobs that you're not married to every once in a while.
Now we've gotten to the point in this the information age where we realize there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually great to do that and get that out of your system.
Sure. You could just take care of it yourself and you'd be relieved, and then you could think clear.
So there is perhaps some utility in the outlet.
But there has been no linkage after looking at multiple studies with pornography and increases in sexual violence, rape, or assault.
I believe the research evidence shows that if you introduce pornography into a community, that rates of sexual crime committed by men upon women actually decline.
And it's safer than having real sex.
There's so many different ways to explore your sexuality through watching porn. And it is sex educational on some level. It's also body educational.
I think you should know your body. You should test drive everything before you let someone else.
People have shown that pornography users have a more positive attitude towards sex.
And sexual excitement and pleasure feel great, and we shouldn't shame people for that.
Can I get in? Awesome. This is gonna be fixing up my relationships. My mind's gonna be sharper than it already is. I'm gonna learn so much more about myself.
And I'll be able to feel that oh-so-coveted pleasure without any guilt.
That you have your party, you have your figs, I will be in attendance. It's gonna be great. How's that? I quit.
It's worth clarifying that the question isn't, is 100% bad, or are there some good aspects? No, the question is it better to have used porn, or is it better to not have used porn, right? Because like ice cream, you can have ice cream like once a week with some friends and it'd be like, you know, not entirely bad. But the ice cream is still a little bit bad for your system, even if you're taking just a little bit of it. Okay, so why would people want to defend it? The obvious answer is it feels great.
Feel great.
So there's no wonder why people would want there to be a way to have that without any of the guilt. But of course, if it actually is a good thing for you, then the reasons to defend it would be to better your life. It would be nicer. Now, what are the reasons why somebody would say that it's bad for you? Well, if it is bad for you, then the reason would be the same, to better your life. But if it's good for you, then the only reason to say you shouldn't use it is because you want other people's lives to be worse. And if that sounds too convoluted, please tell me in the comments. I would want to know. But just looking at that, we can glean that a defense of porn has a disposition toward immediate gratification.
Short-term gratification doesn't iterate well.
Well, okay, so we can set aside the logical arithmetic for now. Let's just look into, without any guilt, without anything else, what chemically happens when you use porn.
Orgasm is actually the consequence of activity in the sympathetic, meaning the stress arm of the autonomic nervous system.
So as you're engaging in the act, then you're feeling a little bit stressed. It feels wrong, and it actually has to, or else you won't be able to proceed. And then once you reach the end of it,
dopamine is strongly released in anticipation and during sex, and then afterwards it plummets and then crashes below baseline.
It's so addictive because you actually feel worse, and so then you want to get it back.
And there's another molecule called prolactin which skyrockets. Prolactin actually sets the refractory period. At least for males, sex can't happen again.
This is important because prolactin levels are associated with depressive disorders,
which it leads to oftentimes people feeling very relaxed or falling asleep.
Good methods to make yourself feel better are, run around, go talk to somebody, go make some jokes. But with the prolactin, your instinct is going to not be to do that. Your instinct's going to be to lay down, to sit down, maybe watch a show or something.
That blunts dopamine release and testosterone for a very long period of time.
The major effect of testosterone is to make effort feel good.
Well, no wonder there's this idea of post-nut clarity, where you feel like shameful.
There's an open loop of neurochemicals, including oxytocin and prolactin.
If you're doing it with somebody else, then all that oxytocin will make you bond with them.
Oxytocin is also associated with pair bonding.
It'll deepen your love.
The feeling that they are your person and that you are their person.
But if you're alone, well, then you feel love sick.
It's this kind of neurochemical, psychological equivalent of making your home environment filthy for a while.
When I used to do it, then I always ended up singing love songs afterward. Sad love songs. Okay, and it's good to clarify that in order to actually have the muscle contractions that you need to have the orgasm require those hormones. You can minimize a little bit of the shame if there's like an excess of shame. Now, it's perfectly easy to say that you don't feel any shame. That's perfectly fine. Anybody can do that pretty easily. But you're not going to get rid of the fundamental chemical processes. We all want more than a fantasy. Whether for some that's just sex with another person, and maybe for the more complex thinkers we'll say it's love. That's the thing we'll be thinking about late into the night when the loneliness has turned our peace into a never-ending nightmare. We know what we must do. We have to speak to women. You have to speak to women. But to do that, you have to go find where the women are at. And to do that, then you'll have to leave your cave. And to do that, you're going to have to look into that mirror. The accountability mirror that David Goggins talks about. The one that won't lie to you. That won't tell you that your pants look good when they're not. Or that smile that you have, it's glowing. When in reality, all the muscles in your face have atrophied from years without use. To fall in love, you first have to take a peek into hell. And you're worried you might fall in. And you might. We want it so bad. But you don't have to start tonight. I mean, most people get married when they're 28, and you're what, 20, 21, 22? It's time for bed. And since you've done a lot of hard thinking today, you need something to relax.
I just touched my car. I just touched my little wiener. It was hard like a rock. Lord, I know I am a sinner. I didn't mean to touch my little wiener. My wiener.
Okay, so subscribe for part 2, in which I will be covering all the secrets you don't know. Nofap. And how to get out of the rut you're in which we will be covering how to put everything you learned here into practice.